Okay. So good afternoon, students, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Ms. Smith, one of the mental health professionals. I oversee the ninth and 10th grade referrals for mental health services. With us, we have Ms. Perez, another one of our mental health professional.
Hi, everyone.
And she oversees our 11th and 12th grade mental health referrals. This month is Self-Injury Awareness and Prevention Month, and we wanted to provide you guys with resources, whether you guys are experiencing this personally or a friend or a family. We wanted to provide you guys with the tools and resources to overcome those challenges. So with us, we have today our community partner from Teenline, and we have a representative who will be introducing herself, and she will proceed to show us her presentation.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Schufelt. I'm the outreach manager with Teenline. As I'm sure you can note, in my name, I've also included my pronouns, she, her, hers. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what Teenline is, how you can get involved depending on the grade level that you're in. And I'll also be sharing my contact information if there are any questions you weren't able to ask today. Want to follow up with me with that as well. So I'm going to get started with sharing my screen and telling you a little bit about Teenline. So the first, what happened? Let me reshare my screen, maybe. Okay, that was interesting. So the first thing I want to tell you about Teenline is how it's different from other hotlines. I know the people watching this are young people in high school. There's a ton of things that happen in high school, a ton of emotions that you're dealing with in high school, and that is why this hotline was created. So this hotline is teens helping teens, meaning that everyone who answers your calls between the hours of 6 to 10 p.m. or texts or emails, however you prefer to communicate, is a teenager themselves has been trained in crisis response. And I'll tell you a little bit more about what that takes to become a Teenline listener if you're interested. So first and foremost, Teenline is a hotline that the people operating it are all teens themselves, enrolled in high school currently in the Los Angeles County area. Second thing that's really different about Teenline from other hotlines is that you can call for emergencies and non-emergencies. So a lot of times people have a misconception that in order to reach out into a hotline, you have to be in an extremely dire, severe situation, life or death, contemplating suicide, or actively considering suicide. And you can actually call Teenline for a range of reasons that we'll discuss a little bit later. And lastly, there is no judgment in this space. Everyone on the hotline, many have been through their own personal experiences with some of the matters that people call in to talk about. So you can trust that it's anonymous and it's a non-judgmental space that you can reach out to on a nightly basis. Okay. So if you are wanting to reach out, how can you do that? The first way that I would recommend anybody who's thinking about this to do is call the hotline. The hotline number is 800-852-8336. That is the numerical version of 800-TLC-TEEN. This operates nightly from 6 to 10 p.m. with our teens operating the hotline. That being said, this number is available to you 24 hours a day if you'd like to talk to somebody. The 6 to 10 p.m. are the hours where our teens are available because, like you, they are required to be enrolled in high school. They have a number of other commitments to do, and we can't keep them too late either. So 6 to 10 p.m., and this is available nationwide. So if you have someone that you care for or know in a different part of the country that might be able to use this resource, you can share this with them as well. That being said, if you are interested in joining, you may be taking calls from people all over the country as well. The second way that you can engage and reach out to Teenline directly with one of our trained Teenline listeners is by texting the word teen to 839-863 from 6 to 9 p.m. nightly. And lastly, if for direct communication with one of our teens, you can email our teens through our website, which is teenlineonline.org. So all this information is available to you if you go to teenlineonline.org. Every page on our website has a banner with our number to text and number to call. And if you go to get help and talk now, you'll find all of these different options available. Okay. Now, maybe you aren't ready to talk about what it is that you have questions about or challenges coming up with. That's okay, right? Maybe you just want to investigate a little bit more and see what it's like and see what people reach out to Teenline to talk about. I would definitely recommend the Teen Talk app and the online message board. Both of these are public chat spaces that you can access for free, as is all the resources with Teenline. But the Teen Talk app you can download as an app to your phone if you have an iPhone or an Android. And then the online message board you actually access through our website, which is teenlineonline.org. Both of these are kind of public spaces where you can share anonymously still, respond to other people. With the Teen Talk app, you'll be getting responses from Teen Talk listeners and responders. And the online message board, you can share across a wide variety of topics. So these are also available to you. Last thing I want to share with you is not a way of getting in contact with Teenline or Teen Talk, but a way of finding additional resources. So today we are talking about a number of topics. Many of them have their own category, if not all of them, in the Youth Yellow Pages. So the Youth Yellow Pages is a list of resources specifically for young people. Many, if they have a physical location, are in the LA County area. But some of the categories that you might find in the Youth Yellow Pages include one on anxiety and stress, so information about what that is and resources specific to that. There's also a category for gender identity and sexuality, general information, and then resources for that. There's a category for sexual health. There's general information on that and resources for that, and so on, right? So there's even resources for grief and loss. I know many people in this last year have experienced loss either personally or communally, just seeing it around them, right? And that can be very impactful. Maybe even you have lost somebody years ago, but that's resurfacing for you during this year and those emotions are coming up again, right? So there's a wide range of reasons for contact in the Youth Yellow Pages and different information. I also think this really illustrates to everybody the wide range of reasons you can contact Teenline, right? So anything that you see in the Youth Yellow Pages has been included because someone has called needing that resource or someone has talked about it during these outreaches, okay? With that being said, we are always looking for your feedback too. So if you are finding that you cannot access a resource that you need, please reach out and let us know so we can help you with that. Couple things I want to note before moving on from this slide is that Teenline is both anonymous and non-judgmental, and I think those are two really important things to take away from this. Many times people are nervous to reach out for fear of being found out or that information being spread to other people, and I promise you that our Teenline listeners do not do that, right? They are not those people generally out in the world, and they especially are not those people on the hotline, right? They're there to listen, authentically, genuinely hear you out and provide you with the resources that might be helpful for you, right? So just know that the non-judgmental piece is really a core piece to what Teenline is. So about why people reach out to Teenline. This is from 2019. The number one reason for contact is relationships. Okay. And again, I think this reinforces what I was saying earlier, that Teenline is a general hotline you can call for any reason. People don't typically think that relationships would be the number one reason for contact on this hotline, but it is, right? That includes family members and friendships and romantic partners and sexual partners, right? It also includes working relationships, coworkers, bosses, teachers, teammates, coaches, right? Sometimes those relationships can cause the second reason we see here, which is anxiety and stress, right? And I know these are under the same category, but I do want to state really clearly that anxiety is not synonymous with stress, right? People can experience stress and not have anxiety. Anxiety is that prolonged feeling of, worry and fear for the future, right? Then depression is our third biggest reason for contact. Depression is that state of sadness that continues for such a long time and it impacts our everyday life, right? Suicide is our fourth most common reason for contact. Suicide is the ending of one's own life, right? School is the fifth reason, which many people would argue has grown as a reason for contact, or would assume, and they would be right. Online school has been a huge stressor for young people during this last year. And lastly, self-harm. And I want to address self-harm for a few minutes here to dispel some common misconceptions and myths about self-harm. So often people assume that self-harm is something that people do to seek attention, right, from others. It's also assumed that people who self-harm are suicidal, always, right? And I think it's really important to remember that both of those are false, right? People who self-harm are typically using that to cope with really stressful and traumatic and painful things, right? So some of those painful things may be depression. They may be anxiety or issues in their relationships, right? Or memories that are difficult, right? Any number of things, but it's really important to remember that self-harm is a coping mechanism. So what a coping mechanism is a way that people try to manage and resolve their pain and their trauma, right? And so when we think of self-harm, it's important to know that. It's important to help your friends and support them and ask them how you can be of support to them. But it's also really important not to judge them if this is something that you find out, right, or notice. So these are our top 6 reasons for contact. I want to make it also really clear that while these are the top 6, these are not all the reasons, right? So this percentage is broken down between those top 6. That means that there are so many more reasons why people contact us. So again, I really encourage you, if you're looking at this right now and like, I don't relate to this, I don't see something that's helpful to me or that I can relate to here, I encourage you to check out the Youth Yellow pages and just see the range of reasons and categories that we have based off of why people have contacted Teenline, okay? In 2019, though, we received over 21,000 calls. We have a range of callers. We accept callers up to 19 years old, so that last teenage year. And then we have an average age caller that's about 12, right, which is younger also than what most people would think. And our callers have started to get a little bit younger lately. But the youngest caller, to my knowledge, was 6 years old to the hotline. And the reason that I always share that piece of information with these outreaches is because I think it's really, really validating and important to remember that age doesn't dictate what you can feel, right? It doesn't dictate what you can understand about yourself. It doesn't dictate, your thoughts and your feelings and your understanding of yourself, right? And so a lot of times in these rooms, people will tell me that they have been told they were too young to experience depression or to feel stressed or to be worried about the future. I've heard too young to understand their sexuality or their gender identity, too young, unrelated to even mental health or identity, but just having certain thoughts and opinions, right? Political opinions, romantic love, right? To have that and to experience that. So whatever it is, whether you're comfortable sharing that in the room today or with somebody or not, I want everybody to know that you are the expert of your own experience, right? Whatever it is that you understand about yourself, nobody else can tell you that that's not true, right? Whether that's a thought or a feeling or understanding, right? So I want us to all remember that and to really, also be excited that this young person not only knew about this resource, but used it, right? And to encourage everybody else that that is something, if there is anything that you want to talk about, that this resource is available to you for any number of these reasons and more. Okay. So the next thing I want to discuss with everyone is current events have impacted why young people reach out to Teenline. Okay, and the reason I like to share this is because oftentimes people in the room may be able to relate to some of the things that I share, right? And again, an additional reminder to all the reasons why you can call Teenline. So one of the biggest reasons that have grown for contact on our hotline has been people feeling unsafe at home, right? So people have had to quarantine, but not everybody has been quarantined or locked down in a safe environment, right? And that could be the home itself. It could be members in the household, right? So we've seen a huge increase in contact regarding child abuse. We've also seen an increase in contact regarding loneliness. So while people have been staying at home, not everybody necessarily is able to, right? Some people are left home by themselves instead of with the whole environment of the family and people around them, right? In addition to not being able to necessarily see friends or engage in activities in the same way, right? So loneliness is a huge reason that's increased on our hotline. Along with that has been self-harm. So what we discussed today, right? A way of trying to cope and deal with and manage this incredibly stressful, anxious-ridden, overwhelming time, right? And depending on your circumstances, that those levels of anxiety or stress or loneliness or worry or impact, they could be really different, right? So self-harm has definitely increased on our hotline. And then more recently, we've seen an increase in body image issues and contact for that, right? So these are a handful of reasons that have increased on our hotline. Again, not all of them, but again, a reminder to you all, the wide range of reasons that you can contact Teenline for, the non-judgmental space that you'll receive, and the resources in addition to just that conversation and that talk that can help you and support you. Okay. So now I want to go on to asking the question of what are some common emotions right now. And I'm going to share, instead of asking and waiting for responses, I'm going to just move ahead to showing you some responses that I've gotten across different outreaches. So among those have been sadness, anger, boredom, distraction, anxiety, stress, loneliness, confusion, worry, and feeling overwhelmed. I've also heard more recently feeling calm or feeling excited, or feeling Zoom fatigue has been a new added emotion, I would say. But one that I want to spend some time on is about grief. So traditionally, we think of grief and we've understood it as the series of emotions we go through following the loss of someone that we love or cared for was impactful to us in their physical form through death, right? So somebody dies and we have a series of emotions that follows that. And while many people may have experienced personal loss in that way in the last year, I think we can all recognize there's been a lot of communal loss and communal grieving as well, right? So communally, there has been this virus, right? And people have lost their lives to this virus. Some actions from that grief that have been taken, whether you've been personally impacted by it or just recognize the impact of this. Some people have taken the steps to stay home, to socially distance, to wear their masks when they're able. Again, all when they're able to. That is one example of that with this virus, right? So those actions in terms of grieving. However, there's another example that comes very fresh to my mind, which is of the summer of 2020, following the public murders of people like George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. There was a communal response of grief to demand for accountability, to educate oneself, to protest, right? And that was a communal response to the grief because not of the loss of those lives, but those lives being taken, right? So we think communally of grief as well. However, the examples that I gave you all included people, right? So that still leaves out that you can grieve places and activities and experiences and things, right? And so many of us have had this loss, since grief is, yes, synonymous with loss. There has to be some loss associated with that. Grief of our sense of normalcy, right? Everything that we've had to do has been shifted. We've had to go to online school. We maybe aren't playing our sports. We aren't engaging with the same people in the same way, right? And so some things that people have shared with me, I mean, if you are in 9th grade, right, the experience of going to a new school and meeting new people and meeting new teachers has not been the same, right? As seniors, trying to experience, you know, those senior fun activities and like being the senior on campus, right? Sophomores and juniors, like getting to experience seeing people in the hallway and developing even more relationships, right? So there's been impacts for everybody uniquely, and then overall everybody has been impacted by not being able to engage with things in the same way, right? So with grief, as I mentioned, we always have responses to this and we're always trying to cope with this. Sometimes in the examples that I gave you, we take action, right? But there's a lot of different things that we can do for self-care. Some of my favorites in short bouts of time, because sometimes that's all we have is 5 minutes between Zoom meetings during the day, I will have a glass of water, right? Maybe pet my dog, wash my face, use the bathroom, go outside for a second, right? And all of these little things are coping mechanisms, right? They're ways of getting through these days, right? So I know that it's been really difficult to read how friends are doing and to check in with them the same way, even to talk to people in the same way, right? It's hard to even coordinate that. But if it's something that you're concerned about, if you need to check in with a friend, it's important to ask them directly and without judgment what it is that you're concerned about, right? So I will give you an example. If I was concerned that my friend was feeling suicidal, I would ask directly, are you feeling suicidal? Right? I wouldn't try to come up with another ones are out there like Teenline or like the Suicide Prevention Lifeline that can support you if you aren't ready to talk with those people, right? So this is a great model of like very simplistically how you can check in with friends when you're concerned. So the last thing I want to touch on is how we're staying connected with loved ones. I know relationships are difficult during this time. I know it's hard to keep them up. I know it's easy to feel lonely and totally normal to feel lonely. So I'm going to brainstorm with you some ways that you can stay connected with loved ones. So these are all virtual options. There are so many reasons why you would continue to stay home. That could be due to your own health conditions. That could be because of the status of your family or household as well. That could just be because of also anxiety as well, can cause a lot of this like strictly staying at home, right? So we want to make sure to be aware of that. So all of these are virtual options. One is a virtual movie night. You can use apps like Cast or Netflix Party, I believe it's Netflix Party, to share your screen with a bunch of other people and watch a movie at the same time and chat about it. House Party app, you can, like, I believe, FaceTime with up to 8 people at once through that, right? And play games with each other. Book clubs, if you want to go old school, you can do that. Select a book and discuss it and have something new to talk about outside of news or outside of your little bubble of friends or circle of people. And then there are downloadable games like Scrabble, right? And you can play words with friends. Instagram live workouts. This has been fun for me. I haven't done it as much lately, but I think early on in quarantine, this was helpful. A way for me to move a little bit, especially when we're sitting in our chairs all day or on our beds or wherever we are able to join our Zooms. But Instagram live workouts have been fun and doing that with a friend. Planning study hours together. I know as we're approaching the end of the year, there are probably assignments due and things coming up. So that even being a way of socializing to where you're not spending so much time by yourself. Taking a cooking class together, you can do like a cook-off virtually. Video games are also great, especially if you have a headset. It's actually a great way of catching up with people, right? So these are still coping skills as well. And lastly, I want to recommend an app called Nod, N-O-D. It generates ideas for staying together based on what you want. So I will select, my age, what I'm interested in doing. For me, it was accomplishing goals with my friends, and they generated a bunch of ideas for me, right? Something else I would say, this is not connecting with other people. This is helpful for you though, is the app Headspace is free for all LA County residents. So you can download that. I think you just include your email and your zip code, I believe, and you get that for free, right? All the access to meditation. They also have like cool mixes from different artists, meditation guides, mindful workouts as well. So there's a lot of great options there. The last thing I want to share with people here is how you can get involved with Teenline. So Teenline is an amazing opportunity for you to meet people, again, outside of your school, outside of your neighborhood, but also a great way to, get involved in the volunteering opportunity. If you're interested in the mental health field, it's a great introduction, where you get 65 hours of training on all these different topics that we discussed today and more. Following that training, you go through 16 role plays. So you actually practice what a call would look like based on those reasons for contact, right? You have to pass all 16 of those in order to finally take calls on the hotline. So for many people, it does take 6 months to a year to go from training to being on the hotline, right? Which is why we ask you to join before your junior year of high school. Okay, so 9th and 10th graders, this is an opportunity for you. Our next application cycle is opening in April. And you can actually apply at this website here, which is teenlineonline.org/volunteer. When you click on that link, there will be all this information that I've gone through here, but at the bottom, there's an option to sign up. By doing that and including your email, that just lets us know that you're interested. It doesn't tell us like, okay, they want to do this for sure, but it does tell us that you want updates on when those applications open, when they're due, and what's required of you for them. So I would encourage anybody who's even like a little bit interested in this and finding out more to just sign up with your email. There's no commitment with that. It just lets us know that you're interested in learning more about the opportunity, right? So as I mentioned, the next application cycles will be opening in April. You will get notified of that if you sign up with your email, not your Instagram, on our website, teenlineonline.org/volunteer. That training will occur in the summer, which is a shorter training session actually. Instead of 13 weeks, it's 8 weeks. It just meets a little more regularly. So more often than not, there are 3 times a week that you're meeting instead of 2 times a week. But during this time, it's all virtual. So especially for those who have any type of transportation concerns, this is a perfect time to get involved. Once you complete training, because that is very time intensive, and I recognize that, I would always encourage people to try to join during a time period that is a little bit less busy for them, right? So there's the summer period, but there's also fall and then winter/spring. Okay, so there's 3 periods a year where you can get involved with this opportunity. Once you complete training, you only have to volunteer 2 times a month. So it's pretty manageable. Our hotline's open 7 days a week. So out of all the days in the month, just 2 days that you have to select to answer calls, texts, and emails through our hotline. Okay. I'm aware, though, that not everybody is able to join at this time, and there may be some juniors watching this. For that reason, there's another opportunity for you called Teen Talk. So Teen Talk is not answering phone calls. You don't get texts or emails. It's all through the Teen Talk app, right? So there are still people reaching out. You're still responding. The training is a little bit briefer. It's 15 hours less than the Teenline training. So it's 50 hours of training. There's those same 3 interview periods a year, and you have to join the summer before your senior year, excuse me. So you have to join before your senior year. And same as Teenline, there are 2 times a month where you have to meet with slightly shorter shifts. Okay. As I mentioned, I'm going to share my email, which is Sarah, S-A-R-A, @teenlineonline.org. If you have any questions about this, please reach out to me. I would love to see some students from this school joining. I think you would be such a valuable contribution and asset to us at Teenline. So if you have any questions about that, I know interview periods and all this application stuff that I'm talking about can feel pretty overwhelming, especially if it's your first time filling out an application or anything like that. So if you have questions about it, please reach out to me. A couple things to note to be really clear: this is a volunteering opportunity, meaning it's unpaid. Secondly, this is something you have to apply for and be accepted to. Okay, so this is an application process. With that being said, this is great to put on a resume. This is great as you move forward. If you're interested in a job or in college, this is a great sign of commitment to people to know that you are ready for additional commitments as well, right? And it's a great way, as I mentioned, of meeting people, which I know has been quite a challenge in the last year. Okay. So as I mentioned, you can always reach out to me if you have additional questions at my email, which is Sarah, S-A-R-A, @teenlineonline.org. And you can reach out to Teenline 800-TLC-TEEN as early as tonight at 6 p.m. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much, Sarah, for providing that information for our students. To all of our students, we will have this recording posted on our website. So please feel free to access the information at your leisure anytime. You guys need the resources, please, like Sarah mentioned, reach out for help and utilize the resources that are available. At this time, do anyone have any further comments? Ms. Perez, do you have any comments?
No, I don't have any further comments. I just want to say thank you so much to Sarah for coming out and providing us with this information. It's so valuable and such a great opportunity for our students to get involved if this is something that they're really passionate about. So thank you.
Thank you both.
Awesome.